Alright guys, Noah here with CustomRCMods, and today we're flying my Strix Nano Goblin with the DJI FPV Crossfire and iNAV on board. I just completed this build here. You can see we've got the Crossfire Nano receiver, Caddx Vista unit here, the Maytech F411 WSE flight controller, as well as a Strix 2S lithium ion battery in there. So I'm super excited to get this thing on up in the air for you guys. This has been an excellent plane and I'm glad I got to rebuild it. I have made this before, but today I'm just going to give you guys my line of sight thoughts, and later I'm going to get into FPV. So let's go ahead, get this thing on up in the air. Alright, so we're up in the air and I've already trimmed this out in my last flight, which was the maiden. So I am good to go for some pretty smooth flying. Just going to be doing some more trimming, but this is in full manual mode, so no assistance from the flight controller at all. And the reason that I'm doing that is because I have done trim tab adjustments in my radio, so that's going to throw off any of the flight controller's corrections, because again, I have adjusted the control surfaces in my radio, not through the flight controller. So I'm going to go ahead and take this home and get this thing all set up so that we can run it with the flight controller by manually adjusting my control surfaces. But until then, we're flying in manual mode, so no assistance and stabilization at all from the flight controller, which is just fine with me. My last Nano Goblin, I completely flew 100% manually because there was no flight controller in it, and that one flew fine. So for the time being, just gonna be rocketing around with this thing and just putting a little bit of trim into it here and there, adjusting for a little bit of wind. This is an upwind pass right now, so the wind is going left to right across your screen, and the Nano Goblin actually performs decently well in wind. Obviously, it does get a little shaken about. However, just because there's not a lot of drag on there, it's not completely unflyable. It's just obviously probably not going to be the best, especially in manual mode, for you to fly FPV, because you're going to get all battered about. But this is just one very unique airplane, because first off, it's super quiet. You can see I'm just flying right by myself, and it's easy to control, very quiet. So you can fly this in a smaller area or in an area with a lot of houses or anybody around where you wouldn't be able to fly a normal loud FPV wing. So that's something I really like about this airplane. Of course, it's small too, so you don't have to worry too much about any sort of, any of the things that come with larger airplanes. You can take it anywhere, fly it in smaller spaces. And another nice thing is that although it can get up to going pretty fast speeds, as you can see right there, you can actually slow this down very well too. And because it's one of those tailless airplane designs, like its bigger brother, this thing slows down nicely and has a very, very good stall tendency on there, meaning that if you just pull back on the stick, you're probably not going to stall it. Now you will start losing altitude quickly, of course, but it's not going to drop a wing. I guess I meant tip stall there. You're not going to tip stall. Of course, any plane's going to stall, but you'll have a very hard time tip stalling this thing. And I bet once it's out there, you can probably barely hear it. There's enough background noise and wind here that it's pretty hard to hear once it's far away. But you can see it's well behaved. It's smooth. It's got everything you need. And the nice thing about this is with the battery that I'm running in it right now, which is a 2S 18650 3200 milliamp hour lithium ion battery, you can run this for upwards of 45 minutes, which is insane. I'll definitely be bored and done flying by the time I end out a flight. So that's something really nice about this airplane, is that it gives you that confidence, especially if you're going to use this for long range applications, or if you're just flying for fun. You don't have to worry about so much about your battery voltage issues or anything like that. Right over my head, just like that. So quiet, it's not intimidating at all. Just something really nice as well. So you don't have to worry too much. without pissing other people off, which is something I do a lot with my 100-mile-per-hour FD Aero. So now with a 3-inch prop, and I believe it's like a 1407 motor, something like that, 1307, 1308, I don't know, somewhere in that range, maybe even it's a 1408, I'm not totally sure. Whatever stock motor comes on the plug and play is what I'm running here. But with a 3-inch prop, there's not a bunch of static thrusts, so you're gonna have to give this thing a nice football toss when you're ready to launch it. However, once you get it up in the air, you can build speed pretty well just hammering on full throttle and letting it go straight. So it carries the speed well, but you do have to build it up. But that's what makes it so efficient, because if you put a 4 or 5-inch prop on there, sure, it might be able to handle it, but you're gonna lose your voltage pretty quickly. Alright, so I'm gonna start doing some glide passes when I bring this thing up to altitude and just glide it, because that's one thing about these Goblins, is that they glide amazingly well. So just gonna do some gliding circles, and the nemesis of your glide is gonna be when you drop a wing, and of course when you're going into the wind, because you lose all your speed and you have to trade your altitude for some speed to get that speed back. And I'm letting off the throttle, you can see just gliding by, and it still carries that speed even though it's off the throttle. Something really cool that I haven't really seen on a lot of other planes. I can't wait to get the iNAV hooked up here. It's gonna be really good addition to this, especially for flying FPV. I have flown an FPV in manual mode before, which is, I mean, it's flyable. It's just that, again, because it doesn't have any sort of stabilization on there, it does get knocked around in the wind rather easily. So that is something that definitely takes away from the FPV experience. I also do want to have in the future the ability to do angle mode, which is something that I have, and in the way far future, I'm probably going to add GPS to this so I can have return to home if I end up doing long range missions, because Crossfire is dependable, but it's only dependable until it's not dependable, if that makes sense. So you never really know, especially when you're pushing range. Now I am going to be doing a full build overview video on this airplane, talking about how I mounted everything, how it's all set up, as well as giving you a full rundown of the parts I chose for this plane. So if you're interested in that, I'll have a video coming very soon, but let me know down in the comment section so I can expedite it if you're extra interested, because I'd be happy to do something like that. But you can see, just from a flying perspective, this thing's already a winner, so I'm really happy with it. Now it looks like we got some kids setting up at the soccer field next to me, so I'm going to try my best not to fly over them, and I'm probably just going to end up landing here in a lap or two so I can completely stay out of their way. This is a public park, of course. However, it is obviously still controlled by the FAA. Got to fly safely, no flying over people or over 400 feet. Good visibility out here. Have visual line of sight with the aircraft at all times. So yeah, let's go ahead and bring this thing on in for a landing. I'm going to do downwind because I just don't care and I don't want to fly over them. So let's go ahead and do that. Just like that. That's going to wrap it up for the video, guys. Thanks for watching. Any questions, comment down below. And like, subscribe. I'll catch you guys in the next one.